Let's talk about the one thing that dictates our choices, shapes our personalities, and, believe it or not, holds our entire civilization together. It's not laws, it's not love, it's fear. So just imagine for a second, you wake up tomorrow morning and that constant low-level hum of anxiety, that worry, that dread, it's just gone. Not just for you, but for every single person on the planet. What do you think happens next? Now, your first thought is probably some kind of utopia, right? A world of total peace and bravery. But the reality would be so much stranger. In fact, the world as we know it would pretty much cease to exist. To really get why, we have to completely redefine what fear actually is. It's not just the feeling you get watching a scary movie. Think of it more like a foundational operating system for humanity, a deep, complex system that regulates how we see things, how we act, and even how we build our societies. Okay, so let's run with this idea. If we just switch off this fundamental operating system, what's the first thing to go? Well, as it turns out, it might be us, our very sense of self. I mean, really think about it. Why do you do the things you do? So much of our drive and ambition is just fear in a different costume. We work hard because we're afraid of poverty, we're careful in our relationships to avoid rejection. Our whole lives are kind of planned around avoiding failure, being alone, and, well, the big one, death. And get this, entire personality types that we all know, they just collapse. The overachiever who's secretly terrified of failing. The people pleaser who can't stand the thought of rejection. The control freak who needs to manage every little thing to avoid uncertainty. You take away the fear that fuels them, and who are they? What's left is just this massive, disorienting blank space where an identity used to be. And this personal identity crisis, it doesn't stay personal for long. It scales up to society, fast. And the very first domino to fall is the law. Laws don't work just because they're written down. They work because deep down we're afraid of the consequences of breaking them. Without that fear, what are figures of authority? Police officers, judges, even your boss. They're suddenly just people in different outfits. The psychological weight that makes us comply, it would just evaporate. So the result wouldn't be some grand, violent rebellion. It'd be much quieter, and honestly, a lot weirder. Society would break down not because of chaos, but because of a collective shrug. A massive, planet-wide indifference. Why would you follow the rules if you have absolutely no fear of what happens when you don't? But as the old world starts to unravel, something totally new begins to emerge from the chaos. In the spaces where we're most human, our relationships, our creativity, we'd see this incredible explosion of truth. Our relationships would be completely unrecognizable. So much of what we call love is really about security, about possessing someone, about avoiding being abandoned. But fearless love, that's a whole different thing. It's based on radical honesty and just being truly present with another person. And ironically, a lot of relationships would probably end. Not with a big fight, but with a quiet, honest truth that was just too scary to say out loud before. Fear is also a massive suppressor. It's that little voice in your head that says, "Ooh, don't share that weird idea," or "Nope, don't take that risk," or "Don't be that honest." It basically keeps our most original, authentic selves locked away. So what happens when you get rid of that suppressor? Just imagine art, science, music, everything totally unleashed from the fear of being judged or failing. People would create things not to get applause, but from this deep, authentic need to just express. We'd see a tidal wave of raw, unfiltered genius. Okay, so a world of radical honesty and boundless creativity. I mean, that sounds pretty good, right? But this is where our whole thought experiment takes a very sharp turn. After seeing all of these incredible potential upsides, you have to ask the question, is this the ultimate goal for humanity? Should we be trying to build a world without fear? And the answer is a stark and really surprising no. Getting rid of fear wouldn't be an upgrade for humanity. It would be an amputation. We would be fundamentally incomplete without it. And that's because we've been looking at fear all wrong. Its purpose isn't to hold us back. Its purpose is to teach us. Fear is what teaches us discernment. That gut feeling that separates a safe situation from a dangerous one? It teaches us where our boundaries are. And maybe most importantly, it teaches us to respect that our actions have real, actual consequences. And that brings us to the real key insight here. The goal isn't to eliminate fear, it's to demote it. See, fear makes for a terrible king.
It will always push you toward the safest, smallest possible version of your life. But it's an excellent advisor. Its real job is to give you information, not to make the final decision.
So, what happens when we finally put fear in its proper place? Well, we're left with something really powerful: choice, with no more excuses. Here is the ultimate takeaway. How many times have we all said, "I can't do that, I'm too scared"? That feeling of fear, often, it's just a story. It's a convenient excuse we tell ourselves to avoid making a really difficult choice or facing a hard truth. If you take away that excuse, if fear is no longer in the driver's seat, you're left with something that is both incredibly liberating and, let's be honest, kind of terrifying. Pure, unburdened responsibility for your own life and your own choices. And this is where this whole big abstract idea gets really, really personal. So take a second and actually think about it. The job you stay in, the conversation you keep avoiding, the dream you've put on the back burner. How many of those decisions are being quietly managed by fear? Let's go even deeper. What parts of your personality, that caution you have, that need to please everyone, that desire for control, are those parts really you? Or are they just constructs, a sophisticated defense system you've built just to stay safe? And that leads us to the final and maybe most important question. If you could learn to listen to fear's advice, but not let it make the final call for you, who would you actually be? And what's really stopping you from finding out?